This is the Business Stuff Podcast. This is where I will share the lessons I've learned from advising thousands of businesses over almost 30 years. Each episode will give you practical insight to allow you to learn from other people's mistakes. I'll be pulling in experts from our team and the world of business, and together we'll make sure your business is giving you what you want. My name is Martin, and this is the Business Stuff Podcast. Hi, it's Marty from the Accelerator team, and I'm here this week with another business story. I'm here with Neil McGregor from Neil McGregor Property Services.
All right.
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. You?
Excellent. Yeah, good. So Neil, you're someone who it's been great watching your journey over the last 6 years or so.
Yeah,
that we've
it's
known
about
each
6
other.
years since we met. Yeah.
But for people who don't know you, tell us what you do.
So I'm Neil McGregor. We own a building and refurbishment company operating out the northeast. Predominantly carry out works in the domestic sector. That can range from extensions, bathrooms, kitchens, structural alterations, smaller maintenance job, emergency plumb out jobs. We've tried to set up to become this sort of a one shop sort of, you only have to deal with one sort of contract.
Yeah.
I know what part of the issue with clients is they don't want to project manage projects, and they don't want to have to ring the tiler if the plumber hasn't turned up, and so on and so forth. So basically we cut all that out. We have everything in-house, and we kind of run the project from sort of start to finish.
And that's where you are now, but that's not where you've always been, is it?
Certainly not,
so,
no.
Because there's probably three parts to your business life then. I thought there was two, but you reminded me there was a third.
Yeah.
How did you get into this then?
So originally, sort of growing up and stuff like that, I suffered from like anxiety and panic attacks and stuff like that. Didn't have a great time through school. I was always relatively intelligent, but struggled with, like I say, some of that. I appreciate mental health and all that sort of stuff's come to the forefront of a lot of conversations. Back then, it wasn't particularly.
You're probably just misbehaving.
No.
But just ignore Neil. He's clarting about.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know what it was myself at the time and stuff like that. So, anyways, I don't want to turn it into a mental health sort of thing. I dealt with it. I overcame it. I've become a much stronger person because of it. But yeah, initially, sort of, I sort of struggled with school and integration, stuff like that. So I always kind of wanted to get into construction, but because of some of the issues I had through school, I couldn't get an apprenticeship or anything like that. So what I decided to do is, I would ring, because I couldn't get an apprenticeship, I would ring up other trades and just sort of say, look, could I come work you for free? I'm not bothered about getting paid. I just want to learn.
So give us the experience.
Yeah, give us
like an intern.
Yeah.
In an office environment, so you're intern, but
it was kind of like an apprenticeship. I was trying to give myself an apprenticeship by just working for anyone for free, basically. And then with the skills I learned, I would then go home. I was still living at home with my parents at the time. I'd kind of replaster my bedroom over and over again. Luckily, my mum and dad kind of let us get away with that.
I remember you saying once you used to just practice replastering your wall.
Literally. So if you chip them walls back now, they're probably like 12 inches thick, to be fair. So and then I kind of developed that skill set. Would continue to work with people for free until eventually I got to the point where I was like, right, okay, maybe I could start working and doing some of these jobs by myself.
You build up the confidence to
just the confidence. I think I was always relatively confident. I was never scared of doing anything. The problem was there was no skill set there. I had the confidence there, but I wasn't very good at actually doing anything. So it took a good few years to kind of get any sort of skill set underneath my belt and stuff like that. And then, like I say, once I, this didn't just happen over a couple of months. Like I say, it was, it happened over years.
So like you say, years. You were working for free for years, or were you literally
I pretty was working for free for years. So I had a pizza delivery job that would kind of, give us the money that I need while I developed my skill set.
Just spend the day mixing mortar for other people, doing that, and then delivering pizzas by me.
Exactly that. To be fair, which to be fair, I was a pretty decent little pizza delivery boy. Like I could make pretty good money. I was, I'm not saying I probably broke a few sort of traffic laws getting pizzas to people in time, but I was pretty damn good at it. So
no pizza was delivered cold.
No, I done well. I got decent tips. So, but no, that kept us going.
You must have been working like a lot of hours then.
Yeah, so
you were busy.
Yeah, so one thing, just because I struggled in school and going to school and stuff like that, one thing I was very good at from an early age was working. So I was working at I was working weekends at 12-year-old, 11, 12-year-old and stuff like that, doing sort of I did some landscaping with one of my friends' dads at the time. He had his own business, so I was never scared to get my hands dirty or anything like that.
So you weren't scared of putting effort in?
No, I've always had an exceptional work ethic.
It was more about having somewhere to put the effort into.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, good. Okay, so you pizza delivering, you built your skills up.
Yeah.
And then you go, right, maybe I need to start charging for this then.
Yeah, so I always wanted to work for myself. I always had ambitions to set my own business up and stuff like that. So, you know, I'd got that good few years sort of initial training, if you like, in. And then I did set my business up, and basically I just it was just started plastering to begin with. And I would just subcontract over builders, you know, again, started charging a little bit, covering a wage, and, you know, I would learn more skill sets as time went on and stuff like that.
So is this where we're going to phase 2 then? Phase 1 was the preparing, getting ready, building up the skills. Yeah,
I would say phase 1 was getting that initial apprenticeship foundation, what you might want to call it that. Phase 2 was actually setting a business up but having no idea how to run a business, but I was starting to get pretty good on the tools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I went through phase 2. I managed to, you know, take a couple of staff on, train them up how I wanted the job to be done.
Yeah.
I was very sort of paranoid about leaving mess and stuff like that. Was, you know, so
we still laugh about that in our house about how So one of the first times we met, really like work-wise, was he did a bit of work for us.
Yeah.
And I came in, and my wife Rebecca was like, oh yeah, no, I had to take the Hoover out of Neil's hand. Neil, you didn't put those Cheerios there. That was our kids. You were like hoovering the whole floor, like.
Well, I think when I set my business up, you know, I was always paranoid about having this you know, lack of skill set. So one thing I did say to myself was like, right, okay, well, if people can do the job slightly better than me at the moment, I'll catch that skill set up. But what they won't do is leave a cleaner job. So that was my USP, if you like.
It was
kind of like, right, okay, I might not be quite as good as you, but I guarantee my job's going to look better than yours at the end. And then what happened is that value maintained and stayed with us, but then the skill set caught up and then some. And then to the point I was able to then start training other staff up, and I was quite keen on bringing staff in who again didn't have that much experience and didn't have any sort of bad habits, and it was like, look, I want it done this way. I want this done because of that reason.
It's done here.
Exactly that, and then I managed to get like 2-3 staff on, and then that's kind of at that point was probably when we first met, and you know, the skill set had caught right up, and I knew exactly what I was doing.
You could deliver a good job. You were leaving clean sites. You knew what you were doing. You were comfortable that you could do the work. You had a couple of lads you trusted. I say lads, and not the sexist way, but they were lads. And then how long were you in that kind of stage for then?
I was probably about a good sort of 3 or 4 year period where it was, you know, basically just concentrating on the foundation of being self-employed and employing people and stuff like that. So, you know, again, I would say that integration of skill set and picking up new skills and being able to offer different services. But during that whole point, what I fast came to learn was you can be exceptional at your job, but running a business and being good on the tools have got absolutely nothing to do with each other. In fact, probably hindered us a little bit. The fact that
because you're so productive and valued on the tools,
exactly,
that actually quite hard to replace on the tools.
Exactly that, and like I say, you know, the running or growing a business and working in a business, the two things have got absolutely nothing to do with each other. In fact, I probably could have grown the business quicker if I wasn't good on the tools, looking back now. But yeah, so I've spoken to some of the lads, they say you're still not good on the tools. Yeah, well, they would say that, So I'm pretty confident I can still hold me on. But to be fair, though, the guys I've got now, a lot of them are far superior than me on the tools, which is exactly what I want, you know. But I can still hold me on. Do
you still dodge DIY in the house though?
Yeah, so just like every other builder, to be fair, I've got
you've got a fence that blew down.
We did an extension on the house. It was like 5-6 years ago now. Still not finished. Well, it's finished structurally and it's built and stuff like that. But
if Sophie's watching, it's finished.
Yeah,
but it's not finished, is it?
It's definitely not finished. No.
So stage 1.
Yeah.
Struggling to find anywhere, struggling to get in anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, doing the learning. Because you can apply this to a lot of businesses now. It's like, I want to get into marketing.
Yeah.
Well, the equivalent would be they'd be on YouTube learning the skills, to be trying stuff.
Yeah. Doing
a job to pay the bills. They then get out there and think, right, well, I'm going to go into business.
Yeah.
And you've kind of described the classic. Well, you've perfected the offering.
Yeah.
you know how to do it, you know you've got a couple of people who can do it with you.
Yeah.
But then when we first met, you were kind of like, you didn't. It's not that you were in a rut, but you were like, well, how do I go further?
Yeah, I certainly didn't know how to develop.
You were still doing massive hours.
Yeah.
You were still working really hard.
Yeah.
You were making money, but you're limited to how much money you can make there, aren't you?
I'd hit the ceiling in terms of how much I could charge per hour. You know, I couldn't. There was nothing left to leverage. You know.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah, you were using all your hours
Yeah,
at a rate that you thought was your peak.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So I was completely resourced out in terms of my hours. And then to scale from that point, there was nothing to scale. There was no business structure. There was no infrastructure. There was, the business knowledge wasn't there.
Still running it from a van, really, weren't you?
Yeah, definitely still running it from a van. Yeah. Okay, I might have had a couple of vans on at that time, but I was still very much in that one-man band mindset. Yeah. Didn't know anything about business. Didn't know how to jump to the next stage. Was scared to jump to the next stage, even if I did know what it was. You know. So I would have said, that first stage, first 2 stages would be, completely getting that skill set up to date. The next stage, I would say, is starting my business apprenticeship, actually learning about business and how you operate a business and how you run a business and stuff like that, which I would drop into this phase 3, if you like.
That's where phase 3 starts.
Yeah.
Because you've talked quite a lot about how these might not necessarily be the same times, but for me, and I think you're fairly open with this, but I was like, that was awesome, Neil, awesome job, but you're far too cheap. Yeah. And I don't think you quite believed us. That why would I tell you that as a customer at the time? Why would I tell you were too cheap? Yeah. Because there seemed to be a bit of like pricing hesitancy, would you say? I can't really charge more, surely. Yeah, I think everyone gets is scared at that pricing stage and stuff like that, and it's what might be a lot of money to you, so you're drafting a quote up and you're like, oh God, they're never going to go for this. But you don't know what that means to that other person in terms of like what you're delivering to them, how much time you're buying them back. But for them, you're giving them a beautiful second room in the house they've never used for exactly that. And again, at the time, I thought everyone delivered the same service as me, so I'm comparing my prices to everyone else. Or they charge X amount per day. Really so I can't go above that. But in reality, again, when I look back now, it's like the service that we offer versus the competitors. Not all, there's some really good guys out there as well, but we were given so much more than we're competitors anyways, and again in the building industry, it's I joke about it sometimes and stuff like that, but sometimes just answering the phone and getting back to people is actually far better than what any of your competitors can even do. I was speaking to a lad not long ago, and he was struggling. He said, I'm like really struggling to get out of probably your kind of like early phase 2. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, how are you delivering your quotes? You say, oh, well, I've got one I haven't sent. I saw them 4 weeks ago. So we'll send it today. Yeah. He went, well, I'm worried they're not going to accept it. I went, the longer you leave it, the less likely they are to accept it. Definitely not going to accept it. Their peak acceptance is when you're leaving the building. Yeah. Like next day, surely, a couple of days later. Yeah. Because most people will just ring another builder. I was like, you've probably lost that job. Yeah. For all you know, their work's done. Yeah. And you're sitting worrying about whether you should send a quote. Well, the amount of times I hear from clients, we've reached out to 3 builders, and one said he was going to turn up, and 2 haven't even got back to it and stuff like that. And but it's not just that. As well as I started to develop me business knowledge and stuff like that, you soon start to realise you shouldn't even be winning every job you price anyways. If you're winning 100% of your work, come on to that again. You're certainly doing something wrong there as well. Well, because I remember quite early, and again, this is my memory of it, because to me, I'm the hero in the story, but you're the hero in the story. Okay. But I remember being the hero and sitting down and we looked at just pricing of work, and I can't remember, but I think you were charging a lad out at 100 quid, but the lad was getting 80 quid of it. Yeah. And I was like, but you're only making 20 quid if everything goes perfect, but you're still paying for the van out of that. Yeah. So you've got to, we worked out, I think we had to say like 160 quid off the top of my head. Yeah. And then you were like, but I'll have to go to like VAT register. I was like, yeah, you will. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, that's going from 100 to 160 plus VAT. It's a massive jump. Yeah. But at the time, you had about 3 or 4 months' work in the pipeline. Yeah. Is that roughly how you remember it or not?
Yeah, it would have been, and like you say, when we had that conversation, it was the fear of not only upping your price, but you then fall into the VAT threshold as well. So, at the time, the way you look at it, the way I looked at it was like, well, you're not just upping it by X amount, it's a 20% increase in actual cost, but you then got to put another 20% on because we're going VAT
your
registered.
prices nearly doubled from memory.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
But you had 3 months of pipeline of people who wanted you because they knew your work was worth more.
Yeah.
They would rather wait 3 months for you than get. I always think it's funny if you ring a trade and they go, I'll pop round tomorrow. Like, why are you free?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be free tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's a simple lesson I would say to everyone. There shouldn't be anyone free to start a job the next day. Unless something weird's happened.
Yeah, well, unless you like got some sort of business where you keep plumbers on contingency and you only do emergency work.
I completely
get where you're
someone
coming
shouldn't
from.
be able to start an extension next week.
No.
So yes, certain jobs, short turnaround, but there shouldn't be a builder ready to start an extension next week unless literally someone's cancelled.
That can happen. That can happen, certainly.
But then they've normally got other work that can they're normally busy on.
Yeah, certainly.
So you went from, like I say, 100 quid to 160, whatever the figures were, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Plus that. But I remember speaking to you at the time, you were quite surprised that you still then had 3 months worth of work and people were still accepting your quotes, weren't they?
Yeah. So you can kind of just continue to do what you're doing and hope that people accept the higher price. So you can start to look at things. Okay, well, if I'm going to be 20%, 40% higher than I originally was, how can I give that client an extra 20, 40% more worth of value? At that time, I probably was already delivering the more value anyway, so we could justify just turning the costs up and still win work. But then this is where, you start to like filter into this phase 3 and you start learning about business, you start learning about, guarantees and USPs and what you can offer clients and stuff like that, so.
Which your 100 quid a day lad isn't doing and isn't capable to do. They're not able to do that.
Well, things like guarantees and stuff like that, if you're charging the bare minimum cost and something goes wrong on a job, which it does, you physically can't afford to come off a paid job to go back to that job, do something unpaid, because there's not enough meat in the business to do so.
Because you can't pay a lad to go and do a job that you didn't make any money on the first time. You can't fix a job where there was no money in it anyway.
Well, you can, but then you're going to work for nothing, and then your business isn't going to last long doing it that way. You
don't get many days like that where you can get away with it.
No.
So what were the biggest challenges across each of these phases then, Neil? Because there will be people out there who think, well, how do I get a start in that? Because they don't teach plastering at school.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to become a plasterer, you've got to get on a site, haven't you?
Yeah. So phase 1, the biggest sort of issue or sort of thing that held me back was it's better if you can find someone who's going to train you up and stuff like that. But again, if you've got the mentality, it's because I couldn't find anyone to train us up, but still managed to get trained up. So if I can do it, I'm certainly nothing special.
Because I would imagine there was times where you did your pizza job, went to like, your Wicks or your Juicens or whatever, and bought some mortar and just plastered something.
Yeah,
because
of course,
if no one's going to let you do it, well, if you've got a flat surface, you can give it a go, can't you?
Luckily, I had my bedroom to kind of just, which is crazy looking back at it, but it didn't. It was my training room, if you like. So, luckily, my mum and dad supported us through that, and I'm not sure if my kids came up to us like I'd be the same now, but no, it was fantastic that I could. And like I say, that really was me. That was my default training room. I'd go and work for someone for free, come back. Okay, I've learned how to plaster 2 wet edges now. All right, I'll do these 2 walls, making absolute balls up of it, and it's like, it doesn't matter, I'll just plaster over it again.
I'll just go again tomorrow.
But it's so probably mindset and answer, to your question. If you think you can do it, you'll be able to do it, regardless if you can find someone. Especially now, the resources you've got now, YouTube and stuff. I'm like,
the tutorials are phenomenal.
Literally, I've obviously diversified into other things and stuff like that. I've literally learned how to do stocks and shares via YouTube. I literally have. And it's exactly the same with, again, if I do something on a job now and I'm like, oh, how do you do that? Or like, I've never done this cut before. You can literally go on YouTube and tell you how to do it. It's absolutely insane resources you've got now.
I think it was Elon Musk who said something like, there's no excuse now for being uneducated.
No, there's not.
In the Western world where everyone's got a phone, a tablet.
Yeah.
If you want to learn on a topic, it's never been easier to get the the theory anyway. You still got to put it into practice.
Oh yeah. I think so work ethic and mindset would put for sort of phase one. If what
were the challenges though, and how I suppose you've answered that. The challenges were, well, you couldn't get the job, so you wanted to skill up anyway.
Yeah,
so you kind of answered that, haven't you? The challenge was no one would take you on because you didn't have an offering. Yeah.
Certainly that.
So
challenge for sort of phase two.
Talk us through you taking on your first lad then, to use a generic term, but
it was just a bit of a fluke really, in terms
you're busy, you're too busy, you need someone, and then people go, well, if I'm paying them, I've got to get twice as much work in. There's a hurdle there, isn't there?
Yeah. So at first it was it was a mate who a lad called Kev, who actually still works for us to this day. Great lad.
Say hi to Kev.
I will do. So
he stayed with us last summer.
Yeah, he did quite a bit of work in yours. So, but no, I mean, Kev's pretty much been with us since sort of day one, well, day one of running the business, if you like, more or less. So I think he just, he didn't have any work on at the time, and he was, if I remember rightly, he was can I kind of come and do a little bit of labouring for you? And then he was doing a bit of labouring for us. I was like, oh look, just knock that bit of plaster up, and then he's asking questions, and you could see the will. Again, he had that sort of willingness to learn and stuff like that.
So was he almost doing what you did?
Kind of.
In a slightly different way.
Kind of, in terms of like wanting to learn the skill set and stuff like that, and then it just stuck, and he got up to speed very quickly, and before I know it, he was helping us out plastering, and then, he got better and better and better. And then it was kind of like I'd created like this cookie cutter sort of thing. I was like, right, okay, well, I reckon I could train another lad up. Actually, I took another lad on, trained him up, got him working, and I kind of done this rinse and repeat sort of process for about maybe 6 or 7 lads. Some stayed with us, some went and started their own business, some come out of construction, some are still with us. So yeah, I mean that's basically how
did he adjust to then going from being your own boss to being the boss? Was that an interesting move or not? I was never.
Even to this day, I'm not hung up on the title of being boss. I find it a little bit sort of cringe.
You are the person who makes the ultimate decision.
Yeah, I've got no problem with.
You might not use the term, but you are the boss.
I've got no problem with accountability and responsibility and ownership and everything else above the line. I'm not one of these people that get caught up on being the boss. Do you know what I mean? You'll never see us driving around in a number plate that says boss.
I've got that.
Oh yeah, well, you're not going to see me doing that, to be fair. I still very much kind of like try to be one of the lads, but still have that line in terms of like, look, if you kind of go out
respect each other.
I try and work on that sort of respect sort of thing. I don't get hung up on what I've achieved or my title or anything like that.
But was it uncomfortable at first, having when the first time you had to pull someone or you had to sack someone?
It's still uncomfortable now, it's not something I enjoy doing, to be fair.
That's probably not a bad thing though. You should never get used to sacking people, should you?
No, just having, I think, again, I try and like review it and be like, well, what have they actually done? And it's kind of like, well, okay, there's always so many sides to a story. You've got to look at like, well, what are they going through at home? And are they arguing with a partner? They've just talked to us like that. Is there a reason? So again, that was a skill set that I've learned. I used to be very quick-tempered, argumentative in terms of like, no, it's my way or the highway sort of thing. But still, not be too enforceful about it. But as I've took more staff on, I've understood people have got different personalities and are going through different things. I try to step back from the situation, evaluate it first and stuff like that, and then like come back with a decent response instead of just being.
Did you just naturally pick that up?
I think so.
Because that's emotional intelligence, isn't it? EQ, people say.
A lot of it, as you get older, especially as you start having kids and stuff like that as well, you start to. You
realise what you put your parents through.
Yeah, exactly that, and I think I haven't done any courses. I've done disc profiles and stuff like that, and understood what kind of personality type I am and stuff like that. But I think it's just you soon start to realise if you take staff on, they're fantastic at their job, you give them a mouthful and they're not there next week. You start to realise, hold on, is it them that were the problem or was it me? You've always got to look at everything. You know what I mean? So, I definitely am a little bit more tactful in how I approach awkward conversations and stuff like that now.
I can remember quite a while ago you told me about the board you had in the office where you would work out what went wrong in the previous week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and I don't know what you call it, but for me, there's a great book called Black Box Thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was where you...
It's exactly where I got it from, yeah. So
Yeah.
I've kind of read pretty much all of Matthew Syed books. So it basically...
Can you take us through that for people who...
Yeah, of course, yeah. So...
they might not realise where the problems are in there.
Yeah.
And they might think, well, I'm doing everything right. How...
Yeah,
so this could identify issues.
Kind of goes back to what I've just said there about trying to work out what the problem actually is, and sometimes you're the problem. Like, you know, so basically, what I took from Black Box Thinking was, you know, you're always going to have kind of issues, but you've got to kind of face them, record them, but tweak them, you know, and correct them as time goes on. I think having that accountability to be able to identify a particular issue in the business that might even be related to yourself, and just sort of come up with solutions to try and correct them, and just, you know, integrate that sort of marginal gains and be like, right, okay, we've got a massive list of problems, but we're not going to try and reinvent the wheel here, but that issue there, we're gonna implement this, that's going to help that, we're going to monitor it, see how it goes. If the same thing happens again, we'll try and come up with another solution or another process.
Have you got an example of something that, you know, I mean, like either a recent example or one of the biggest wins you realise? Because the classic one to me seems to be trades turn up and you kind of go, well, I've got to go and get the material. Like, well, you're a Sparky and it's wire. Sure, you've got a reel of wire on the van. Like, I mean, I know you can't carry all stock at all times, but there's certain things you kind of go, well, I'm going to use wire every day because I'm a Sparky. Yeah. I'll make sure I've at least got me 2 main types of wire on the van.
Yeah, I mean, that would be one. You know, it's not one that's recently happened with us.
No, I would imagine you've eliminated those types of things.
Yeah, so I mean, carrying a surplus of materials instead of having to, you know, constantly go to the merchant and leave the job where you're not getting paid for and stuff like that. Trying to think the most recent one that kind of jumps. Probably the most recent one actually that jumps to my head. We've just sort of last year we took on like a contracts manager and stuff like that. Richie was fantastic at his job, but because it was the first contract manager we brought in, and I was still used to doing that job. But I found, again, this was something that I need to look at myself, that, you know, I brought him in to do this job, but I was still second-hand. I was still doing the job for him, and like, we wouldn't get into confrontations and stuff like that. But in the end, he kind of had to say, like, look, Neil, you know, like, stop. This is what. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. But this is what you brought us in for. What you can't do is baby is forever and keep doing my job for us, or it's pointless as being here. So that was, you know,
a learning moment.
That was a learning curve, more of a. You know, that was more of a sort of one for me, you know, but yeah, I mean, we have things go wrong on site all the time that you've got to look at and be like, right, okay, why did it go wrong? You know, is there a process we can bring in to prevent it happening again and stuff like that, you know? So
that's not to say stuff won't go wrong on it, because it will. You'll always drill through a pipe, you'll always smash a window, something will always happen. Yeah. It's not that it's about avoiding the preventable issues from happening again, isn't it?
Certainly, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
What do you think 13-year-old Neil would think of this Neil sitting in front of me now, who by his own admission is well read, knows what a disc profile is, appreciates the different stages in business, and has kids, has a home, you know, lives in a house possibly way nicer than you thought you would ever live in when you were that age. Like, what do you think 13-year-old Neil would?
I think it's hard to go back to 13-year-old because I'm such a different person, to be fair. You know, obviously, I would imagine I'd be pretty pleased with what I've achieved and stuff like that. But then you talk to 30-year-old Neil, and it's kind of like, we haven't even got started yet. Like, it's weird. Like, you set goals, you hit the goals, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're not even close. We need to start the next goal. I do sometimes find it difficult to look back with pride or anything like that, because I'm always too busy looking for the next goal and stuff like that, you know.
You're quite hard on yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think that's needed?
I don't know if it's needed or not, but it's just the way I am. I can't help it.
It hasn't hurt you, has it? It hasn't, because you don't dwell on stuff. You're quite hard on yourself, but somehow in a positive way, I would say.
I think so. Yeah. Like, you know, I wouldn't say it's particularly hurt is, apart from the fact that, you know, maybe I should look back and be a bit happier about where I'm at and stuff like that. You could probably say I'm a bit miserable because of it, but well, not miserable, do you know what I mean? But tough to please.
Again, me and Kev, we were sitting having lunch last year. We said,
but yeah, I suppose that's what success looks like, though. You know, you level up And then it's kind of like, look, to get to the next level, it's pointless looking about what you've achieved now. Like, what do we need to do to get to the next level? And then you get there and it's like, right, okay, well, yeah, now, you know, now how do we get to the next level after that, you know?
One thing that was quite a revelation for me is I was talking to someone about, it was exercise, and it was actually, there was a gym around the corner where I was working out, and it was years ago. I said, why does this never get easier? And he said, well, because as you get fitter, you still push harder than than you're used to.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're, you know, Usain Bolt doesn't finish 100 meters and have like all of his breath.
Yeah.
He ran as hard as he could, and it was just as hard for him to put 100% in as it is for you to put 100% in. His 100% might be way down the line, much better. So if you're always pushing, it will always feel hard, won't it?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you probably hit the nail on the head there, to be honest. It's, you know, you go to the gym, you get fit. The gym sessions don't get easier. You're more productive in the gym sessions, you know, or you start to get fitter, you start to get stronger, you know. You've still got to kind of push yourself to the same amount you push yourself on day one.
Yeah.
But it's quite hard. I think, you know, from a business journey though, it's quite difficult to push yourself 100% every day, and that's kind of where, you know, one of the best sort of sayings that are, you know, there's a lot of sayings out there, and a lot of it's just, you know, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, to be fair. It just sounds good when you write it on a meme on Facebook or something like that. But, you know, you don't have to be consistently great. You just have to be great at consistency. Like, that is literally the best saying I've ever heard, because it applies to everything. Fitness, business, relationships. You can have an absolutely stinking day, but as long as you're turning up, you know, you have a stinking week, you have a stinking month, but it will eventually get better. And then, I can't remember what it is, but there's a great one. Consistency will beat passion every time. Yeah. You turn up every day and put effort in every day. Yeah. Well, you'll be super motivated to go to the gym on week one or day one when DOMS kicks in and you're like, you can't be bothered to do anything. It's a motivation doesn't last very long, to be fair. Discipline's a far superior thing to have than motivation in my eyes, and that's definitely something I've learned along the way as well. What came along and hit you as a challenge that you really weren't expecting along this? You know, like because if you're sitting and you think, well, I'm going to start a business, well, you expect finding work might be a challenge, or, you know, like was there something where you kind of go, I really wasn't expecting that, and that like really took the wind out or really slowed you down? Yeah, so personal life, you know, relationships, kids, stuff like that. You set out these brilliant sort of goals and stuff like that, and, you know, you forget the fact that you've got other responsibilities elsewhere, you know, and it's and that's more important than business as it is anyways, you know. So you might have a bit of a, I don't know, like a bit of an argument at home or something like that, and then that slows you down, stuff like that. But then, you know, you're starting to get more focused about, oh, well, I haven't achieved this, but in reality it's like, well, hold on, I've just left the house having an argument. Like, it's not all about business. You know, you've got all these, as you get older, you've got more responsibilities, you've got all these other areas of your life that you also need to kind of like keep topped up. It's not just
give time to them.
So you're helping fitness and stuff like that as well.
Because you can't do 12-hour days when you've got a busy family life, or you shouldn't. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if I answered that the way you want. I'm trying to think of it.
I didn't have an angle.
I'm trying to think of a particular time where it's like, certainly loads of issues in that sort of phase one period. You know, you couldn't afford to buy proper vans. You'd buy clapped out vans, and there was one period, I think there was a time when I think I had 2 or 3 vans on the road, and all 3 of them broke in the same week. I think you offered to lend us your car and stuff like that to get the job, you know.
I had a Galaxy. I was like, well, it's not a van, but you can get plenty in it.
So the problem you've got there, you know, your fleet isn't great. You know, you haven't got any cash reserve to go and buy another van. You're trying to get 3-4 people around to a job. You're trying to keep 3-4 clients happy. So that, you know, I would imagine that would, you know, a lot of people, you know, working for themselves can appreciate that. You know, everything kind of goes wrong at the same time. You got no money to kind of like quickly go out and buy another van or something like that, you know. So hit many sort of issues like that.
Cash flow is always a hard one.
Yeah.
One thing you seem to have different, without going into the numbers, is you seem to, at the moment, run your business ensuring that you can cash flow your business.
Yeah.
So I'm not asking you to share numbers, but You know, like how much, you know, if anything, you maybe keep too much cash on tap, but like how many months do you think, well, that's the bare minimum I want to keep in there? If money stopped coming in, I want to be able to pay the lads, you know, like, because most builders, I think, they fail on cash flow.
Loads of builders fail
because they're taking depots on job 2 to finish job 1.
Yeah. I think the good thing with me is I'm not emotionally attached to money. Like, I understand money, I understand how it works, but if I see a figure in the bank, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to go and buy this, I'm going to go and buy that.
So you just say that as a tool in
it literally is that. I think once you start making a certain amount and stuff like that, as long as you're comfortable, as long as you work what your personal overheads are and stuff like that, if you can be disciplined enough to just take your wages out, which is what I do, take the same amount of wages out every month and stuff like that. Don't, you know, if I want to go on a holiday, it's got to come out, my personal wages and so on and so forth. You've got to build up. As the business grows, you've got to build that pot up and stuff like that. So, as a rule of thumb, I always got told you want 3 months operating cash. I try to aim somewhere between 3 and 6 months. The reason being, it took us so long to get the staff in that I want. We've got a really strong team now, exceptional sort of lads on the tools. If for some reason we had a downfall in work and stuff like that, I don't want to have to say to any one of them lads, like, look, sorry, you're going to have to go and find something else that kind of keep you going. I'd rather keep hold of all them lads. So if for some reason,
find the work.
It's like we've got 2 months where we're overstaffed by 50%. Then that's down to me. Go and find that 50% worth of work. What I don't want to start doing, which I've never had to do, touch wood up to now, is start saying, look, sorry lads, there's not enough work for you. You know, we're always looking to grow, and like I say, it's took us years to do what we've got now in terms of trades, and you know, I don't want to lose any for the sake of losing a job and stuff like that. If I've got
because that recruiting, replacing, and retraining and upskilling, it's far more expensive than just keeping the people you've got, isn't it?
Oh ridiculous amounts more expensive.
You touched earlier on you shouldn't win every job.
Yeah.
Do you want to expand on that a bit?
Well, you know, again, this is something that I learned as I started to learn about business and stuff like that. If, you know, you can win 100% of the jobs you price, or you can win 50 or 40% of the jobs you price. If the 50 or 40% are priced higher than the 100, you're making exactly the same amount of profit doing 40 or 50% of the same amount of work, or 100, but you're working 50 or 60% less. You know what I mean? So you can make exactly the same amount of profit and work less. So you need to find that optimum conversion rate. You know, like I say,
because there isn't a universal conversion rate.
It's what works for you.
It's different.
What works for you. So sometimes we aim for X% over times. If we've got a massive backlog of work and stuff like that, we might actually look to lower that conversion rate and be like, right, okay, well, we're kind of over booked at the moment anyways. You know, we maybe up the cost a little bit here, you know, because we're going to have to employ more overhead to carry that work out anyway, so that justifies the additional cost anyways. It's not just about getting as much as you can when you can. It
sounds like you use basic supply and demand.
Exactly that.
If you're in demand, you can charge more.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not that you're robbing people. It's your people obviously value your service higher than your competitors.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be waiting for you, would they?
Well, I think all businesses like that. If there's demand and you've got to drag in more overhead to cope with the demand and more resources to cope with the demand, the cost is going to go up. You know, it's exactly the same with holidays. It's exactly the same with food shopping. It's just the way it is. That's life.
I love how you just, it is. I've never heard it like that yet. It's the same as holidays and food shopping, but you're right, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. I think you've still got to deliver though. Like, you can't be bang average and spout off about, well, I don't mind if my conversion rate drops to this, we'll just up the money and stuff like that. So, we're turning up. It's like, when you turn up, you've still got to deliver. That's so important. And in the day we don't deliver, the day we stop delivering is I'll pull it all back and work out what's going wrong.
The day you stop delivering, you can't get the pricing anymore.
Exactly that.
And
then
it would be very easy to spiral the other way, wouldn't it?
You can't justify, charging, not necessarily a premium, but you can't charge for something you're not delivering, basically.
How did you find your client base has changed then? And obviously you'll be doing jobs now way bigger. You've probably done a job in the last year that was bigger than your entire turnover 10 years ago.
Well, we turned over more last month than we did like the first 2 years of me knowing you. Do you know what I mean? Which kind of puts things into perspective. So in terms of clientele, I mean,
because that's the other way to play with price, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're doing, you know, someone's jumped on Facebook and went, oh, does anyone know anyone cheap to build a fence?
Yeah.
You're not searching for that job now, are you?
No, you've got to identify what kind of jobs you're going for and what clientele you're going for as well, you know. And it's typically we want to aim for our work at someone who is time stricken, you know, wants to pay that slightly additional extra to just have that one phone call, you know, and
just know that it's going to be done.
Know it's going to be done. If there's any issues, they know someone's going to come back to correct them. So yeah, we always aim, you know, we're sort of sales, and you know, that's who we aim for when we're trying to win a job. Obviously we're also sort of diversifying slightly into commercial work and insurance work, which to be fair, scarily we're barely even scratched it. We're just a domestic company at the moment, which is crazy to think about, like where I've managed to get it up to and stuff like that, and we haven't even flirted with particularly much commercial or insurance work yet, which we will do. So, you know, as a domestic customer, it will be someone wanting to get the job done properly, know that if there is any issues, someone's coming back to correct them, and you know, and
because that's where you can, that's part of your pricing strategy as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you want. So I remember speaking to a Sparky years ago. You might know the lad, but I'm not name dropping on here. But he said, he says, I wish people would stop tagging us on Facebook requests.
Yeah.
So you know, you drive out to see a job and they go, I want the hob move from there to there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my mate reckons you can do it for 20 quid. Can you do it any cheaper?
Yeah.
It's like, I've spent 8 quid on diesel getting here. It's like, and no, you can't do it properly for that price.
Yeah.
Where you know, and he's like, well, I wouldn't mind driving to somewhere where they expect it's going to cost a couple of £100 because that's what it takes to do the job, you know. So I would imagine you don't do any of those other, like the first example, you're presumably doing none of that work now, which means you can charge proper prices for people who are expecting to pay.
Yeah, definitely. So I think another good thing that I've learned as well is sometimes it's polite to say no. You know, if someone asks you, can you do this job? You know, and they might give you a budget or something like that, and it's not, you know. So we categorise jobs in A, B's, and C's as well, in terms of like, look, we want A's, we'll do B's, C's not for us.
We'll fill the diary with B's if we haven't got enough A's, but C's we don't want.
Exactly that, and the C's say, look, and again we might be like, well, we can't do it, but these are pretty decent, they can do it, you know, so at least we give someone a solution. So, but I think to turn around and say, look, I'm sorry, the job's not for us, it's not the kind of work we want to carry out at the moment, tell that to the client. It's far better than someone sat there waiting for a quote that's never going to come.
And say, oh yeah, I'll get back to you, and then go, I didn't want it, so I'm not going to quote.
Yeah. It's just sometimes easier to be, not brutal, but just be like, look, I'm sorry, we're
honest.
We're not going to provide a quote because it's not a job we want to do. Yeah. And I think, you know, if someone takes a humble over that, then they take the humble over that. But I think most people be like, all right, okay, fair one.
Respect it.
Yeah, happy days. Right? At least I know where I'm at.
I've had people say to me in the past, to say, you know, I want this job done so bad, I don't care what the price is now. I just want someone to turn up and do it. I've been in that situation where I've had 2 or 3 people not turn, like, right, will you go? I don't care how much it costs. Can you just go tomorrow at the time you've said? Because if you've got a tenant who's took time off work, it's really disruptive if that happens. And it's such a relief if you get someone who just actually turns up.
Well, you've got to be able to turn up. I mean,
thank God for that.
We had a situation last week where we booked a CP12 in for someone because I had a tenant moving in, and then the gas engineer that we had, he had COVID, he couldn't come in, so all of a sudden we couldn't deliver, and it was kind of like, we either ring the client and say, look, I'm sorry, guys come in, the guy hasn't came in, we can't do your job, your tenant can't move in, or you come up with a solution. The solution was like, look, who do we know who are gas engineers? Doesn't matter, it's not our company. Doesn't matter that we're not going to make any money on this particular job.
But we're not
letting this particular client down, which what we've done. So I mean, that particular occasion, I'm not saying it's the best business advice to pay someone more than you've actually got in for the job just to get it done. But what that means is, on
a relatively small job, you keep the customer happy.
Well, what happened? That particular client actually came back beginning of this week. Can you price to replace my boiler? Actually, it's been in there 12 years. I'm thinking about getting a new boiler. You're reliable. So
all of a sudden there's work you can schedule in and make good money on.
Exactly that, you know. So by delivering for that particular client, we now got the opportunity to price a replacement boiler for them as well, you know.
What's the one thing, if you can give one bit of advice to people in those earlier stages, Neil, what would it be?
Self-development. Try to get your mindset right. I see loads of people, I'm not taking staff on because they're all crap and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but how are you training them up?
Crap managers have crap
exactly
staff.
That, yeah. Exactly, literally exactly that. So I'm not saying you can train anyone up, but a lot of it, you can try.
Start by trying.
Yeah. So, but that, I would say getting that mindset right, and having faith that you can train people up, and it's not going to work straight away, and you know what, you're going to let people down and you're going to make mistakes, but have the fortitude to kind of put things right and stuff like that, and trust the process. Look into self-development. There's so many books, there's so many videos you can watch on YouTube and stuff like that, and it's
what book or video or person has changed you like what was the biggest?
So a lot of things for me really. So I do like business coaching and stuff like that as well. So I'll pay someone to kind of like, go through business with us as well. So I've had some really good business coaches over the years. Getting in and around.
What about the cost-free element though? Because you mentioned there's books called.
Yeah.
So which author would you, if you had to give a book to someone?
So it depends on what you want to, if you want to learn about finances, you want to learn about business development, you want to learn about self-development. But some of the ones that stick out for me, Black Box Thinking was a really, really good one to try to work out how to get your mindset around, failures and how you can turn failures into successes. Atomic Habits was fantastic as well. If you can get into a habit of doing something.
Your consistency, your discipline that you talked about.
Yeah, exactly that. And again, there's loads I've read on kind of like how to manage money and stuff like that as well. That you've got all the sort of
resource management, managing what you've got and making sure you're going to have enough of it. Yeah.
So those two books jump out at us sort of straight away. I'm trying to. E-Myth was a good one as well. I read E-Myth and I'm like, did this guy write this book about me? So like, that's a really good one for someone in that first stage to understand the difference between someone working in the business and a business owner.
Being a skilled labourer versus a business owner.
It's a really, really easy book to read and teaches you about systems and procedures and stuff like that. So that's a really good one.
So we're going to give someone 3 books, we'll give them 3.
I think so, yeah. I think I'll go for them ones like that.
I would struggle to argue against any of them, to be fair.
Yeah. Those are the 3 that jump out at me.
Have you read Oversubscribed?
Yes, I have.
That one about making sure you've got a waiting list. And, if there's demand, that pushes it.
There's so many. Like literally, you can download Audible for like $9.99 a month or something. That'll be the best $9.99 you've ever spent a month, if you can be disciplined enough to read them and dissect them.
To be fair, Neil, so if someone's sitting going, well, I've got no money, I haven't got that, most of these people quite openly give away their ideas on YouTube.
Yeah,
you should watch the YouTube videos. You get a lot of it for free.
Just ringing people as well, and just reaching out to people. It's like the worst they can say is, "No, get lost. I've got no time." You know what I mean? If someone reached out to me and asked like, "Oh, could you spend a little time?"
You got half an hour, I'll buy you a couple.
Be like, no problem. Yeah, you've got to pass that information back down.
It's funny you say that, because I saw this might be old news to most people, but I saw an interview with Steve Jobs, and the first time I'd seen it the other day is he ran. Bill Packard, Hewlett Packard, HP, IT. He said, rang the guy up and just said, would you mind giving us some spare parts? I'm trying to build something.
Right.
And the guy was like, great. He ended up getting an internship at Hewlett Packard, and then, Steve Jobs, Apple. I think he just picked the phone up and asked someone.
I think most people who have achieved something or got somewhere are quite happy to pass that information back down the line, you know what I mean?
Because do you think that's like an abundance mindset then? You're like, if I make you good, it doesn't take away from me.
Yeah, well, look, if you look at, I'm trying to, I don't know why this just jumped into my mind, but look at like Pep Guardiola and the Arsenal man, like the best mates, and he like Pep sold I'm not massively up to date with the two teams, but sold them a player who's one of Arsenal's best players now, and now Arsenal are top of the league and Man City's chasing them and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have to give him. He probably regrets giving him the advice now, to be fair. But I think, I speak to some people who are like massively successful in business. Like literally, I'm like drop in the ocean. And it's amazing how much time they've got for you if you actually turn around and ask them a question. It's like, it's as if they want to help you move up the ladder and stuff like that, you know.
But again, they're not afraid that you're taking their slot either.
Well, I think
they want the competition to be good, because they know they're always going to be better than the competition.
Well, it can create like strategical alliances moving forward and stuff like that, you know, and you can do joint ventures and all. There's all sorts. Like, if you lose that, I think if you're stuck in that mindset of like, oh, I'm scared in case he overtakes us, then that's not the right mindset to take. Anyways, it's kind of like, well, look, if they overtake us for good reason. I'll up my game to re-overtake them, you know. I think if you always look at it that way, then you can't really go wrong.
So it's also, to be fair, and I know you know this, but it's not a competition against other people. You've just got to be better than you were, haven't you?
Yeah,
it's
100%.
It's a personal journey, isn't it?
Definitely.
Neil, what's the one thing that you think people are getting wrong then? We'll just finish. We always just say, what's the one thing people just keep getting it wrong?
I would say test and measure. Like, so having a visibility of your business in terms of exactly, you know, so you can forecast. So if you can create this dashboard, doesn't matter what size business you're at. This could be one-man band. It could be 100 staff. Obviously, if you've got 100 staff, chances are you probably would have adapted some of this information. But if you can create a dashboard, it doesn't have to be super complex. But if you can work out how many leads you've got coming in, where they're coming in from, what your conversion rate on them leads is, that means you can start to tweak with the leads, play with your price, work out what your optimum conversion rate is, play around with that. What it also does is you can create like a manpower work from there. If you win X, you know, mountains amount more work than you can deal with, you can dissect. You can work out what your percentage of labour is. So actually, you can work out how more staff you need from that, and then you can you know, that gets a ball running from there.
This is the 5 steps, kind of the old action coach type basic mentality, isn't it? You look at how many leads, conversion turns into a customer, how much each customer buys.
That part of it certainly is as well. On top of that, you need to know what's in the bank. You need to know what's going out of the bank. You need to know what's coming in the bank. So, you know, it's all good and well having all these leads, conversion rates, you're about to start the work, but oh shit, I've run out of money.
Have people been paying you?
Yeah. So all of that. Also, some of the other things we monitor as well as you get a little bit further down the line: staff retention rate. How long are your staff staying with you for? Can you increase that staff retention? Why are they leaving? Can you make them stay? You know, so if you can, the more visual you can make your business, the further down the road you can see in terms of, like, you know, you can project a little bit more. You know, you've got more.
So let's play devil's advocate. Then I'm going to say, yeah, but Neil, I'm still in the barn. I'm still plastering 8 hours a day, doing the invoices by night. I haven't got time to measure staff retention.
Right, okay.
But your point is, measure something.
Yeah.
The dashboard's different. Your dashboard works for you.
I get this all the time with sort of one-man bands and stuff like that, or if you subcontract one-man bands in, you're like, oh, where's my invoice? Oh, I haven't had time to do my invoice. I've been too busy at work. So
you should never be too busy to get paid.
So my counter argument to that always is, well, why don't you employ an admin, even if it's just part-time? Can't afford an admin. So, well, hold on. You're taking them same hours, so your hourly rate is 40, 50 quid an hour. You're doing them 4 hours a week to do the admin, which means, you know, you could employ an admin at 10, 12 pound an hour to do that. If you're that bothered about still working them hours, go back to work, get your 50 quid an hour, and pay your admin your £12 an hour to do that, do the bit you don't want to do, and then it's done. Your business is more streamlined, and then start to look at picking it apart, and then like, okay, how do I get your admin to create your dashboard? You know what I mean? Get them to do all your test and measure.
Paying them to raise your invoices, get them to raise the invoice, you know, like record it, and
like literally now, if I was starting again, one of my very first hires would be an admin to do all the stuff that I don't want to do. That, you know, I'll concentrate on the higher value work to carry that out. Get an admin to do. Admin's invaluable, to be fair. Like, they really are. If you can get
plus
some
now, I mean, you can get a virtual PA for.
Of course you can.
Like I'll say buttons. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to their rates. But if you're someone who makes a couple of £100 a day doing your job,
exactly,
and you can get an admin in who costs you 10, 20 quid a day,
it's a no-brainer. But it's a lot of people are so stuck on the hamster wheel, they can't see the wood for the trees, and they can't realise, hold on, like I'll pay someone to do that part of the business, and I'll just still do what I'm amazingly good at.
If you like doing it, just do it.
Because but what they're trying to do, they're scared to pay someone because the fear of, oh well, that's not giving us money back. But in reality, it's giving you a higher ROI on the stuff you're doing day in, day out. You know, but it's trying to get that into someone's head, you know, and that's where the self-development and the opening your mind and learning things sort of comes from, you know.
Because the second part of that, the test, the measure, the measuring is the dashboard, you know what's going on. Testing, you can then play with your pricing.
You play with it,
and I
yeah.
always say to someone, how many quotes a week do you issue? 50, right? Well, your next one, just put it up, see what happens.
Yeah.
You can do that, can't you?
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Test one.
What you may
Well,
find...
I can't put all my prices up 50%. I'm not asking you. I'm saying try it for your next couple of quotes.
Without testing it though, you don't know any of the answers to these questions. You're just guessing in your head what you think will happen. Until you start playing around with it, you just don't know.
Like that, test and measure.
That would be my first go-to. If I could go back in time and tell myself something, it would be create that dashboard
and get some admin.
I know it's difficult because you're so bogged down, and you know you've got that client round the corner shouting on that the job isn't finished.
But again, the dashboard can be simple for a one-man business.
Doesn't have to be complex.
It can be a simple dashboard.
Nearly everyone uses accountancy software now. Xero does so much. You know, you can do a cash flow forecast, you can do a budget on you know, it what you owe in, what you owe out. It does all that for you. You know, you don't even have to do anything.
Listen, man, I'm sure 13-year-old Neil would be very proud that you've even dropped in zero cash flow at the end there. And if he's not, I'm proud of you on that. It's a pleasure watching your journey, man.
Spot on.
That was Neil. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much, Neil.
Thanks, mate.
You've been
Lovely.
great.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ta.